Welcome everybody to another Indie Spotlight video here on the channel. Every Wednesday night we play nothing but indie games submitted by developers, and these videos are the recaps of these streams. If you'd like me to take a look at your game in a future stream, please get in touch. But we are starting off with the game Weapon Hacker. And please know that this is done during its early access and may not represent the current version of the game. But our concept is, well, quite frankly, a literal Metroid roguelike. With the unique element is that we are able to fully customize our weapons that we have. So, the world itself is procedural, the rooms are handmade, and then they are stitched together as we've seen from many other roguelike examples. Our mission is to explore these strange planets to find upgrades, and figure out what is going on and kill any nasty aliens in our way. So, the weapon customization works like this. As you can see on screen, you're able to attach various parts to your weapons. Each part will modify the properties in some way, shape, or form. Do you want your shot to do lightning damage? Do you want it to be homing, spread, fire, you name it? And then when you attach them, you are limited by battery power. That's those little battery icons you see on the right-hand side of the UI. You also get missiles that can be used to open up doors, blow up specific rocks and formations, and again, similar to the other games that we've played. So, in a way, Weapon Hacker reminds me to some extent of a robot named Fight, that also went for kind of a Metroid roguelike design. And the game handles that by having areas specifically locked until you find the upgrade. And the upgrade could be hidden in a treasure room, or could be behind a boss. And then of course you'll get kind of the supplemental upgrades as you play through, which will aid you, but will not necessarily unlock further progress. And the general progression, you'll be moving from area to area, and usually the bosses will have something that you need to unlock the next door. Along the way you'll be able to pick up credit that you can use to unlock specific treasure chests, and again, the passive bonuses, such as increased supply, more health, batteries, and so on. So, from a basic standpoint, I really did like Weapon Hacker. I really enjoyed this idea of being able to create your own weapons. But, there are two issues that I have with this game. The first is that the game, I think at the moment, lacks a strong aesthetic. Everything has a very generic look and feel to it, and it's kind of not helped by our nondescript, looks like an Evo suit wearer as our main character. The second thing is that from what I played of the version, and again, we played this a few months ago on stream, so I don't know what has been done since, that the weapon customization didn't seem all that interesting. You're going to have, you can still shoot your gun whether it's a rapid fire, single bullet. It's not really changing what you're doing from room to room. And I hope that going forward, or if it hasn't been added in yet, it will be, that they really open up or let you play around with these crazy modifiers. As you can see right here, I attached a chainsaw, so now while I'm shooting my gun, it also creates a buzzsaw effect as well. And of course, being the fact that it's a Metroid, look, we just got double jump. I don't know at the moment if there are any plans for persistent elements. Again, unlocking new content or changing things on subsequent runs. But if you are a fan of Metroid, and if you're a fan of roguelikes, or action roguelikes, I would definitely keep an eye on this one. And it may turn out to be a really great take on this design. And with that, we'll move on to our next game. This is Black Book. And the version that you're seeing is the Prologue Edition that I believe is available for free on Steam right now. This is a deck-building roguelike that kind of goes for almost a mix of Slay the Spire with the longer campaign format of something like Darkest Dungeon. So our concept here is that we are a witch, and the game is based on kind of Slavic myth and mythology. And we're on a quest to save the soul or save our lover who has died. And to accomplish that, we are going to make, I guess, as many deals with the devil as we can. So, the story or our gameplay is that we explore the land, completing quests and challenges for the people, while uncovering the 7 seals we need to kind of unleash the full power of our spellbook. So as you fight and complete quests and such, you'll gain words. These are spell pages that can be added to your book that will do varying effects. And you'll need to kind of, quote-unquote, build your deck by managing your book and deciding what words you want to use and how you want to play them during a turn. The game is split into kind of handmade events and then the procedural events that can show up as you explore the countryside. And you'll need to decide how you respond to certain actions that will affect your overall morality, which, being both a witch and somebody who is pledging their soul to the devil, you gotta be very careful of the bad and good things that you do. And you'll be able to equip various objects and bonuses to your character as well. And from what we played of this game on stream, it's definitely going for kind of a more, I wouldn't say grounded, but more lengthier experience in terms of being a deck building roguelike. And it did look like they were going to set for some major turns in terms of what decisions you make, how it impacts your character, and what options you have. Alongside, of course, I'm sure there must be multiple endings or multiple paths through the game's chapters. In a surprising turn, the game will actually test your knowledge on Slavic lore and the mysteries of the land in specific parts. By answering these questions right and helping people, you'll gain additional resources or make a fight easier before you get to it. For this part right here, I am going to fail this test because I didn't realize what the correct option was. And I do like all the different aspects Black Book does compared to some of the other deck building roguelikes we've played. In terms of any real issues or problems with the game, as this was the prologue during the game's Kickstarter, which I'm happy to report they did meet and beat their initial funding. So this game is definitely going to be coming out. And with that said, I am interested in this one. And again, it's hard to really comment on any issues with the game, but if you are looking for, once again, another deck builder roguelike to fill out your own collection, keep an eye out on Black Book and check out the prologue, as I believe it is still available on Steam now. And with that, let's move over to Black Skylands. This is taken during the prologue edition. Now I think it's still available. And what we have here is a game that could, I guess, best be described as a return to the top-down version of Grand Theft Auto, but in almost like a steampunk, or I guess maybe cloudpunk kind of world. So our story is that we have 3 factions of people living in a peaceful society when dangerous raiders have threatened and are trying to take over. We play as the last or one of the few survivors of a major attack who it is now up to them to save the day. And to do that, it's going to require flying around, building up the remnants of their habitat, and getting to a lot of combat. As the game spent a lot of time, at least on the prologue, on the kind of shipless combat, where you're able to explore island chain or floating island by floating island chain, make use of your grappling hook, and fighting enemies in melee and range. Every weapon can be upgraded with mods that you find, and you're able to equip different weapons and different ammo types. And that's kind of the weird thing about Black Skylands, that I'm not quite sure where the real focus of the game is going to be. During the prologue, the game seems to hint at these 3 different gameplay loops. You have managing your habitat, finding people, upgrading it to get more resources. You have kind of the exploration of the skies, going on missions. And then there's a lot of, again, this kind of combat system. And they're definitely, I think, trying to pull a Grand Theft Auto, with having all these different systems kind of trying to work independently of each other to lead to a greater game as a whole. And unfortunately, from the prologue here, we really didn't get a chance to see or get a lot of the other two systems. Flying involves having to make sure you have enough fuel, going to various spots to hunt down resources, and the kind of habitat building didn't really seem all that involved, which again could just be the fact they were playing this on a prologue. But as with games of this kind, there's definitely potential here if they can stick the landing. No pun intended, as my character almost fell to their death there. And definitely one to keep an eye out on if you're looking for another kind of open world style game, but in its own unique universe and design. But I would like to see more of these other systems, and hoping that they're not just being ancillary and the whole game is going to be focused on the combat. Which, while interesting, it doesn't really, I think, elevate a game if that's going to be the main focus here. But with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we have a few more games to look at for the spotlight. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, link down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. For our next game, we turn to KeeperRL, and the footage you're seeing is taken during its early access, and of course may not represent the current version of it. But what we have here, quite frankly, is Dungeon Keeper if it was an open world roguelike. And if the thoughts of those two descriptions make you excited, then you're probably going to be buying this game before even finished making this part. But our concept, as I just said, is that take the dungeon building and bad guy management of something like Dungeon Keeper, but throw it in a world or an open style roguelike. And that's what KeeperRL is aiming to be. You're going to be crafting your dungeon out of the side of a mountain, building rooms, placing items to dictate kind of the room structure. Again, if you've played Dungeon Keeper, then all this should be second nature to you. As the game goes on, characters will start joining, and you'll be able to train them, outfit them with weapons, and of course, send them out to do evil. And that's the one area where KeeperRL kind of differs, or it should differ, from the original Dungeon Keeper. That was essentially more of a very basic RTS, and then of course you would attack the enemy on the opposing side. Here, the entire map is going to be procedurally generated in terms of towns, castles, people, and of course treasure for you to find. As you build your dungeon up, you'll be able to invite where characters of various classes and species will join, and you're going to, again, your goal is to just be that evil bad dude who's sending out minions and such to take over the world. When you get into combat, like as you see right here, the game kind of goes turn-based, as you'll be able to command your units individually, and kind of move around and try and deal with all the enemies before you can then loot and ransack the place. My main concern that I had with KeeperRL was that I felt the UI was a little cumbersome, such as being able to manage individual units, and kind of keeping track of everything that's going on in kind of your info pane on the left-hand side of the screen. With that said, this definitely has some potential, and the idea of taking kind of the Dungeon Keeper gameplay loop and throwing it into an open world roguelike has some real potential to be an amazing game. For those of you looking at this and wondering if they're going kind of the route of Dwarf Fortress or that level, from what I played of this when we did this on stream, I don't believe they're going for at that level of sim, which for one thing is good for people like me who found Dwarf Forge to be a little too complicated to get into. So if you are excited about this idea, and don't mind again kind of the very complicated, a little bit cumbersome controls, I would say definitely get this game and take a look at it. Because it's not every day where we get to see these two kinds of designs put together. And with that, we have one final game, and that is going to be Magic Twin. This is an early build that we got a chance to play from developer, and the music is off because we did play this co-op with Shark. So this is kind of a match the color co-op style game, where your mission is to basically stop these enemies from reaching either side of the field, while also performing kind of a spell that is supposed to kind of destroy everything and move things along. So, one character or one player is on the left, the other player is on the right. And you're able to basically move up and down. You're going to switch your spell, your color, from the various options at the bottom. And again, color beats its color. So red beats red, blue beats blue, you get the picture. And your overall objective is to keep yourself alive, but there are bonus objectives as well. So as you can see on this map, in order to win this, you need to cast those spells. So to cast a spell, you need to synchronize with your partner to kill only the enemies of the spell in that order. So if we want to cast red, red, blue, yellow, that means we need to organize ourselves to only kill those 4 in a row, and then hit the proper button timing in order to actually do it. And of course, it is far easier said than done. One of the issues that we ran into was that we noticed that there was a delay between sometimes quickly hitting the button to change a spell after you fire a shot. So if, let's say, I want to shoot blue, change to red, fire red, if I hit the change button a little too soon after hitting the fire, it may not go off, and instead I'll hit the enemy with the wrong spell and make things worse. Now, despite the fact that the field is split up in by half here, each player can shoot enemies on the other character's side. So as you can see, we're having to kill the enemy, and then we have to gather the soul, and that is what we use for the spells. And it's a very clever idea. It's also one that I'm sure will cause friendships to be ruined, depending on how you play it. And this does have some potential if you're looking for another co-op game. However, besides the control issues, I'm not sure what the overall core gameplay is going to grow. Is it just going to be completing these various objectives? Will there be different levels or different stage layouts? It was kind of hard to tell exactly where these could go beyond what we saw in this play. So definitely keep an eye on this one, especially if you have a friend to play a co-op with. You can play this single player with the AI taking over as your partner. But we really didn't get a chance to see, could the AI handle things when things got complicated? With that said, thanks for watching this video. I'd like to thank all the games or developers who submitted keys. And if you'd like me to take a look at your game in a future stream, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. And until our next video, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.